This is Miss Alice, and today I want to say something that most women will recognize the moment they hear it and immediately want to deny. We start arguments we have no intention of finishing. Not all of us, but enough of us that the pattern is impossible to ignore once you see it clearly. And the men living inside marriages where this pattern is the default mode of conflict have been trying to understand something that makes no sense through the lens of how they themselves handle disagreement. They handle it by trying to solve it, by bringing the issue to the table with the specific intention of addressing it, understanding it, and reaching some kind of resolution that allows both people to move forward. And what they consistently receive in return is something that has nothing to do with solving anything. It is a performance, a diversion, a masterful redirection of the entire conversation away from the original issue and onto something that puts him on the defensive instead of her on the accountable. Something that ends not with the problem resolved, but with him apologizing for bringing it up in the first place. I am Miss Alice, and today I'm going to explain exactly what is happening, why we do it, what it accomplishes in the short term, and what it destroys in the long term that we consistently fail to calculate before the argument we started arrives at a destination we never intended. The first thing you need to understand is the fundamental difference between how men and women approach conflict. Picture a man bringing up a difficult subject, something that needs to be addressed, something in the relationship or the household or the shared life that is not working, and that he believes a direct and honest conversation might actually fix. He approaches it the way he approaches most problems, with the specific intention of identifying what is wrong and finding a way to address it.
Don't worry, I test all the potential new family members with this machine.
Identifying what is wrong and finding a way to address it. His emotional state during the conversation is calibrated to the goal of resolution rather than the expression of feeling. He is not performing. He is not managing an audience. He is genuinely trying to solve something. Now picture a woman being on the receiving end of a conversation where something she did or said or decided is the subject being raised. For most women in this situation, the experience of being the subject of honest feedback, even gentle, respectful, genuinely problem-solving feedback, activates something that has nothing to do with the actual content of what is being said. It activates the need to not be wrong, not the desire to understand the issue, not the curiosity about whether the concern being raised has merit. The deep and powerful and often completely unconscious need to exit the position of being the person who did something that requires examination. And the fastest available exit from that position is conflict, not conflict that resolves anything. Conflict that redirects, that moves the focus from what she did to how he is making her feel about being asked to look at what she did. That transforms a problem-solving conversation into an emotional emergency that requires his management rather than her accountability. By the time the argument ends, the original issue has disappeared. Not because it was addressed, because the argument made addressing it impossible. And she is the one who needs comforting, and he is the one apologizing. And the original problem remains exactly as it was, unexamined, unaddressed, ready to produce the same outcome the next time he gathers enough courage to raise it again. The second thing you need to understand is why this pattern is more common in women than in men. It is not because women are less capable of honest engagement. It is not because women are fundamentally more dishonest or more defensive or more fragile than men. It is because women learn very early that emotional escalation works. Think about what happens when a woman cries or expresses strong emotion in a conflict situation. The focus shifts. The person who caused the emotion becomes responsible for managing the emotion. The original subject of the conversation gets subordinated to the more urgent matter of emotional resolution. This is not a strategy most women consciously develop. It is a pattern that was reinforced by results across years of interactions where emotional escalation produced the outcome of attention shifting away from accountability and toward comfort. It worked, so it continued. And it continued until it became the default response to any situation where being accountable felt more threatening than being emotional. The problem is that what works as a deflection strategy in the short term produces catastrophic damage in the long term. Because the man on the receiving end of this pattern is learning something with every repetition of it. He is learning that bringing legitimate concerns to his wife produces a specific and reliable outcome, not resolution, not honest engagement, not the experience of being heard by a partner who takes his perspective seriously. He learns that bringing concerns to his wife produces conflict that he will have to manage, emotional escalation he will have to navigate, an argument that will end with him apologizing for his tone or his timing or the way he raised the issue, rather than with the issue being addressed. And the lesson he draws from this education, delivered consistently across months and years of trying to have honest conversations with someone who turns honest conversations into emotional performances, is simple. It is not worth trying. And the day a man decides it is not worth trying to talk to his wife about things that matter is one of the most consequential days in a marriage. Because what follows that decision is a silence that looks like contentment from the outside and is the beginning of the end from the inside. The third thing you need to understand is what specifically happens during the redirect and why it is so effective. He raises an issue calmly. He has thought about how to raise it. He has chosen his words carefully. He is not attacking her. He is not criticizing her character. He is identifying a specific behavior or decision or pattern that is creating a problem and bringing it to her attention in the way he would want her to bring something to his attention. And the moment it lands, before she has engaged with the substance of what he said, she is already somewhere else. She is hurt, not by what he said, by the fact that he said it, by the implication that something she did requires examination, by the experience of being on the receiving end of honest feedback from someone who is supposed to love her and should therefore never make her feel criticized. And that hurt becomes the subject, not the issue he raised, her feelings about being made to feel criticized for raising the issue, her experience of being treated unfairly by a husband who should be on her side, her sense that the conversation is an attack rather than an attempt at connection. He is now defending himself against a characterization of what just happened that has nothing to do with what just happened. He is explaining that he is not attacking her, that he is on.
We had our biggest loss of the season. When an entree and a Kazuki for $13 feels like a win. That's all.
That he is on her side, that he raised the issue because he cares about the relationship, not because he is trying to make her feel bad. And by the time that defense is complete, by the time she has accepted the reassurance and the conversation has returned to something resembling calm, the original issue is gone. Both people know it is gone, but raising it again would restart the entire cycle. So it stays gone, and she never had to look at it honestly, not once. This is the pattern. Clean, efficient, completely effective at its actual purpose, which was never resolution. It was escape from accountability. The fourth thing you need to understand is the specific damage this pattern does to a marriage over time, because the individual arguments feel survivable. He gets upset, but he gets over it. The issue gets dropped, but other issues remain. The marriage continues, and from the outside, everything looks functional. What is happening underneath the functional surface is something that does not show itself until it is very advanced. He is running a ledger, not consciously, not with any intention of using it against her. Simply the automatic record keeping of a man who keeps trying to address things that matter and keeps being prevented from doing so by a process that was designed to prevent him. Every issue that was redirected rather than resolved stays on that ledger. The financial decision that became an argument about his tone. The parenting disagreement that became a 3-day silence. The concern about the marriage that became evidence of his failure to appreciate everything she does. Every one of these stays, and the weight of what is unresolved in the marriage accumulates without either person fully acknowledging it, because the conflict that would have allowed the resolution kept being transformed into something that prevented it. Until the weight becomes a wall, and he is standing on one side of it and she is standing on the other, and she is asking why he feels so far away. And the honest answer is that every argument she started without intending to finish added another brick. She built the wall, one redirected conversation at a time, without ever meaning to build anything except an exit from the discomfort of being accountable. And now the exit is the marriage they are both living inside. The fifth thing you need to understand is what genuine conflict resolution actually requires, because I do not want this to be only a description of what is wrong. A wife who can actually resolve conflict, who can receive honest feedback from her husband without immediately redirecting it into a performance of being hurt, does something that is genuinely rare and genuinely transformative for a marriage. She pauses before she responds, not to formulate a defense, to actually hear what was said, to ask herself honestly whether the concern being raised has merit before she decides how to respond to it, to engage with the substance of the feedback rather than the feeling of receiving it. She says you are right when she is wrong, not with caveats attached, not with but you also, just you are right. And then she actually changes the behavior rather than performing a temporary adjustment until his attention is elsewhere. She distinguishes between feedback about her behavior and attacks on her character. A husband who raises a concern about something she did is not telling her she is a bad person. He is telling her something he needs her to know so the marriage can work better. Hearing it as criticism of who she is rather than information about what she did is a choice, and it is a choice that ends conversations rather than improving relationships. She protects the space where honest conversation is possible by being the kind of partner whose response to honesty is engagement rather than escalation. That protection is one of the most valuable things a wife can offer a marriage. Because a marriage where honest conversation is possible is a marriage where problems get solved before they become walls. Where a man can say something difficult without bracing for the cost of saying it. Where the relationship between two people is actually strong enough to hold the weight of the truth. That marriage is available to every couple, where the wife decides that being accountable is worth more than being comfortable. The question is whether she decides that before or after the wall is complete. Here's what I want to say directly to the wives watching this. Your husband is not your enemy when he brings something to you that is difficult to hear. He is your partner, trying to maintain a connection that requires honesty to survive. The argument you start to redirect the conversation away from his concern does not protect you. It protects a version of you that does not have to grow, that does not have to look at the places where your behavior is costing him something real, that does not have to acknowledge that the person who loves you most sometimes has legitimate concerns about how you are treating him. That version of you is comfortable, and it is destroying your marriage. The wife who can sit with the discomfort of honest feedback without transforming it into a weapon she uses to end the conversation is the wife who has a marriage worth having. Not because she is perfect, not because she never makes mistakes or never defends herself or never feels hurt by things that are difficult to hear. Because when something hard is brought to her, she engages with it honestly, rather than using the emotional tools available to her to make the bringing of it cost her husband more than the issue itself is worth. That engagement is not weakness. It is the most powerful thing available to a woman who wants a marriage that actually works. Not on the surface, at the foundation, where the only things that survive long enough.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning. And unto the Bayath Dawadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. So, this video here, the title says the husband is not the villain. Okay? Ultimately goes to this right here at the bottom where it says how women destroy, if it'll let me go down, how women destroy 93% of marriages. So, and we know that most modern marriages are not taken with sincerity and genuineness. They treat it as if it's a business transaction or a temporary contract. Okay, marriage is something to be, respected and sacred. But in today's society, these people, they treat it as if it's nothing. And the majority of you women, and whether you like it or not, accept it or not, believe it or not, you can deny it all you want, but the majority of you women are the cause of the reason why most marriages don't work. So we're going to go ahead and get into these scriptures and let the scripture speak. So this is going to be the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 1. And it says, "Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands." Okay? I'm going to read that again. Proverbs 14, verse 1. It says, "Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands." So, think about that. A wise woman buildeth her house, but a foolish one plucketh it down. Basically meaning to destroy it, right? So a wise woman will do whatever it takes, to build that house, to make it better, to keep it stable, right? That's what a woman is supposed to do. Okay? It highlights the profound impact of a woman's character on her household. Wisdom builds stability, security, and prosperity through diligence and care, while the foolish one destroys the family through neglect, reckless actions, and poor decisions. And most of you women are the latter. Foolish, you destroy the house, you destroy the home through neglect, reckless action, and poor decisions. When it comes to building a house, a woman, she keeps the family together. She strengthens the family life. She improves the home environment and nurtures the relationship. Now, a woman who destroys it, like a plucketh it down, she's lazy. She has no care. And she's always starting a fight with her husband, reacting emotionally to everything, gaslighting, manipulating the situation just so she can get her way. Like I said, man, in order to make a marriage work, communication is key in any relationship. If something's wrong, you gotta call it out, right? As the scriptures say, open rebuke is better than secret love. Now, when it comes to a man, when he sees a problem with his woman and he addresses it, and like the lady said, the gaslighting, manipulating, turns it around to make it seem like he's questioning himself to see if he was in the right or if he's the one that's guilty of doing something. Those mind games. And that's what a lot of you women do. You play those fucking mind games. You refuse accountability. And a lot of you women cause a man so much stress to the point where it's just like, this is what a lot of guys are probably, I would say more than just probably doing right now. This is Proverbs 21:9. "It is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house." So, it's better to be in an uncomfortable situation, or it's better to be in uncomfortable isolation than to deal with a woman that is confrontational, loud, proud, and doesn't listen. And trust me, coming from experience, when I was dealing with a woman at the time back then, I was patient. I tried to do everything I could to make it work, to see if there was a slither of hope that she could actually do it and better herself. But you know, after that experience that I had, you know, there's plenty of women out there. There's plenty of fish in the sea, but you know, you have to understand, you know, as Elder Apostle Tahar says, you know, when it comes to the scriptures, they tell you how to deal with the women. And there was a video I watched on Elder Apostle Tahar saying, you know, to know a woman's intentions, you have to read her body language, because she's speaking with her body not more than 90% of the time. If you could read her body language, you can pretty much get a good idea and discern what she's really thinking and what she's up to. So Proverbs 21:9 again, it is better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a white house. So a man would rather go outside, sit on the housetop, and just enjoy the silence and the fresh air than to be in the house dealing with a contentious broad, to maintain some level of sanity before he goes insane. Ignore that, please. This is going to be the book of Sirach. It's going to be chapter 25, verse 16. It says, I had rather dwell with a lion and a dragon than to keep house with a wicked woman. So, basically, dwelling with fearful and fierce animals would be more pleasant than to deal with a wicked woman. So a wicked woman causes more heartache, more fear, more depression, more negativity than a fierce animal like a lion or any wild beast of the field. And yet, you women also say that you would choose the bear over a man, and not knowing that a bear is going to tear your ass up. And you say that the man is more toxic, more, just more of a hassle than a man. Well, you know what? Don't get me wrong. Not all men are good. They're not. The men have their, the men have their shortcomings, but mainly you women are far worse. You women are far worse off than the men are. And it says here in verse 17, the wickedness of a woman changeth her face, and darkeneth her countenance like sackcloth. Yeah, man, because a woman's, her actions, her wicked actions, it'll show. It'll show in her face. You'll be able to see that she's not sincere, she's not genuine, she don't give a damn about you or your own well-being. Verse 18. Her husband shall sit among neighbors, and when he heareth it, shall sigh bitterly. So when a husband is tired of dealing with his own woman, and he'll go to a neighbor's house or a friend's house, and their friend or their neighbor sees the stress, they ask, what's going on, man? He tells them why, and he just sighs bitterly about it. It's just like, my wife, man, it's just, I can't stand her. Verse 19. All wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Let the portion of a sinner fall upon her. So all wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Anything that's wicked does not compare to the wickedness of a woman. Let that sink in. Verse 20, as the climbing of a sandy way is to the feet of the aged, so is a wife full of words to a quiet man. So, a woman that is garrulous, a woman that likes to that's talkative and loud, like when you picture an elderly person walking up a sandy hill, it's rough, it's hard, it's taxing, because, walking through a sandy field, it's walking through that stuff, it's hard on your feet, and you got to deal with the pressure and all that. But walking through a sandy field, it's not easy, and it's tiresome. So again, verse 20, Sirach 25 and 20, as the climbing up a sandy way is to the feet of the aged, so is a wife full of words to a quiet man. So, you know, a woman that's nothing but a motor mouth, it becomes tiresome. It becomes annoying. You know, and that's the one thing that a lot of you women, especially Israelite women, more specifically, the so-called black woman. I mean, yes, the Latina woman and the Native American women are involved too because they're Israelites as well, but it's mainly the so-called black woman. You are by far the worst. You don't know how to shut up. You don't know how to just sit down and be quiet. You always got to argue. You always got to fight. You always got to make a scene. Verse 21. Stumble not at the beauty of a woman and desire her not for pleasure. So stumble not at the beauty. Like, I don't care how pretty she is or how good she looks. As the old saying goes, beauty is only skin deep. And that's a fact. It's only skin deep. And desire her not for pleasure, man. Don't get caught up in thinking with the small head. Use the big head. Okay? Use your brain. Like, okay, she's pretty, but what kind of a person is she? Verse 22. It says, if a woman, if she maintain her husband, is full of anger, impudence, and much reproach. All right? So, that right there again, you know. A woman that is controlling, manipulative, you know, that's it warns that, you know, that if a woman, excuse me, basically, if a woman is, like, let's say, if the woman is financially supports or rules the husband, often leads to conflict, shame, and a loss of traditional domestic harmony. It advises against allowing a wife to dominate the household, socially, financially, just in all aspects. Doesn't the book of Proverbs say, let me just get it. Proverbs 31 and 3. Give not thy strength unto a woman, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. Do not let a woman lead you. Don't let her direct your path. Do not let her make decisions for you. You're the one that makes the decision. You're the man. You're the prize, not her. And if she gets upset, oh well, fuck it. That's what I told the last woman I was in a relationship with. If you don't like the decisions I make, you are more than welcome to leave. I am not forcing you to stay here. Leave that shit alone. You know? These women, man, I tell you, I don't even know how. I don't even know how the 2/3 deal with these women. Even the 2/3 of the nation of Israel, the 2/3 Israelite men, even they're sick and tired of these women. They prioritize money over the women. Money over bitches. That's the 2/3 mentality, but for us that are in the truth, our mentality is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai over bitches. Okay, Sirach 25 and 23. A wicked woman abateth the courage of her husband. Let me start that again. Sirach 25 and 23. A wicked woman abateth the courage, maketh a heavy countenance and wounded heart. A woman that will not comfort her husband in distress maketh weak hands and feeble knees. So again, man, a woman that doesn't, care for her husband like she should, it's just going to cause him stress. It's going to discourage him. He's going to be, mentally and emotionally, he's going to be, in a state of, He's, discouragement and disheartened. That's why, if you go to the book of Sirach, chapter 26, it says right here in verse 2, a virtuous woman rejoiceth her husband, and he shall fulfill the years of his life in peace. Okay? A virtuous woman rejoiceth her husband. Okay? She takes pleasure in having a husband, being with her husband, doing things for him. That's the type of woman that puts a man at ease. Okay? And it says, drop down to verse 7, an evil wife is a yoke shaken to and fro. He that hath hold of her is as though he had held a scorpion. Getting stung multiple times. Put that scorpion down, leave her alone. A lot of these wicked ass women, leave them alone. Unless you want to get stung. And it's going to hurt. And I'm going to drop down to verse 13. It says, the grace of a wife delighteth her husband, and her discretion will fatten his bones. Okay? The grace of a wife, a woman that respects her husband, listens to him, and takes his words, his concerns, his thoughts into consideration. If there is a problem and he addresses it, she will be, like the lady said in the video, she'll be honest about it, approach it with genuineness, and she will take accountability, work on it, and fix it. Verse 14, a silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord, and there is nothing so much worth as a mind well instructed. A woman that listens to her husband and follows her lead and loves her husband, that is a woman like genuinely loves her husband and is sincere about it. That is a woman that is worth having. She's going to keep the house well maintained and built. And she's only going to make it better. That's the whole purpose of a good woman. But most of you bitches out here, especially Israelite women, you don't even know what it means to be a good woman. You just want a man for the rod and expect him to pay for everything. This is going to be the book of 1 Timothy. This is going to be the book of 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 4. And this goes for the men as well. One that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. So a man has to be the manager of his own family. And if he has children, they must respect and obey him. In verse 5, for if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of the Most High? So right then and there, that tells you that the responsibilities of a man are more important and more heavy than that of a woman. And yet you women complain about your responsibilities. And you say you women are equal to men? No, you're not. And like it said in verse 5, for if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of the Most High? So if a man doesn't know how to manage himself in his own household, some self-examination is in order. He has to work on himself. Okay? In fact, let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 6. Luke 6, starting at verse 47. It says, whosoever cometh to me and heareth my sayings and doeth them, I will show you to whom he is like. In verse 48, he is like a man which built an house and digged deep and laid the foundation on a rock. And when the flood arose, the stream beat vehemently upon the house and could not shake it, for it was founded upon a rock. So in other words, you have to have a solid foundation, not just a physical one, but a spiritual foundation, like your beliefs, your your standards, your boundaries, your morals, your code of ethics. You have to stand firm on that. Stand firm on your beliefs. And I'm speaking to myself first and foremost when I say this. Verse 49, but he that heareth and doeth not is like a man that without a foundation built a house upon the earth, against which the streams did beat vehemently, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. So, as far as like your spiritual beliefs, your morals and all that, if you don't stand firm on them, you're going to be shaken to and fro, and eventually you're going to crumble. You know, and you're going to look like a fool. And that person that pretty much made you go against what you stand for, they're like, you don't even believe what you believe, what you say you believe. You're a hypocrite, you're weak in your faith, you're a weak-minded individual. That's how they're going to view you. And you know, let's get another precept here for a woman that is manipulative, controlling, and tries to get her way. And this is talking about, and that's that, you know, and that manipulation, trying to get your way, trying to get control, and do things through sneaky means, and try to act innocent about it. That's that Jezebel spirit. We go here to the book of 1 Kings, chapter 21, verse 5. It says, but Jezebel, his wife, and who's she the wife of? She's the wife of Ahab. 1 Kings 21:5. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said unto him, why is thy spirit so sad that thou eatest no bread? Verse 6. And he said unto her, because I spake to Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, give me thy vineyard for money, or else if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. 7. And Jezebel said, and Jezebel his wife said unto him, dost thou not govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So Jezebel is taking matters in her own hands, and you're going to find out as I read down. Verse 8, so she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal, and sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in his city dwelling with Naboth. Excuse me. And you know, just for edification, Naboth is a vineyard owner of Jezreel who Ahab and Jezebel had unalived so that they could have his possession. Now, verse 9, it says, and she wrote in the letters, saying, proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. Verse 10, and set 2 men, sons of Belial, before him, to bear witness against him, saying, thou didst blaspheme the power and the king. And then carry him out and stone him that he may die. See that? See how sneaky and manipulative women are? How sneaky and manipulative a woman can be? Verse 11, and the men of his city, even the elders and the nobles who were the inhabitants in his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. Verse 12, they proclaimed a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came 2 men, children of Belial, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme the Most High and the king. Then they carried him forth out of the city, and stoned him with stones that he died. So, you know, man, again, man, give thy strength unto a woman, she'll destroy the kings, man. And you know, this is a primary example. And of course, later on, Ahab got judged dearly for that. She was later thrown out a window. trampled by a horse and then eaten by dogs. All that was left was her skull, her hands, and her feet. That's brutal, but a righteous judgment, man. Now, we're going to get the book of Deuteronomy real quick here. I'm going to close out with this. This is going to be Deuteronomy 24 and 1. Oh, sorry. Deuteronomy 24 and 1. It says, when a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. So basically, if she's doing or acting in a way that seems unfavorable or that makes you feel uncomfortable, give her the boot out the fucking door. Don't even waste your time. All right? And that's why I'm just gonna stick with what Elder Apostle Tahar said in one of his live camp videos with Elder Apostle Kabar and Elder Aran Love and the other men that were with him. Just for the young brothers, just wait till the kingdom. Wait until these women are back in their righteous mindset. Even in the time when Jacob's trouble goes into full effect and Isaiah 4:1 fully kicks in. However many women the Most High sends my way, Lord willing, that Yahweh Bashim Ashai gives me the spirit of discernment to be able to tell which out of these women is genuinely sincere and not just trying to play me to get her way. But other than that, man, like I said, the title of this lesson is I'm gonna title this lesson "The Problem with Modern Marriage," and the title of this video is "The Plot Twist: The Husband is Not the Villain: How Women Destroy 93% of Marriages." You women have to realize it's not your husband, it's you. But yeah, in some cases, it can be the husband, and depending on if he's a drunkard and an asshole and an abuser. And that's another scripture I want to get real quick through the Spirit. It's Sirach 4 and 30. It says, "Be not as a lion in thy house, nor frantic among thy servants." Okay, so don't be a tyrant in your own house. Referring to the men, don't be a tyrant, don't be overbearing, do not use and abuse your wife. She's there for you. She's there to help you. She's not there to be just your punching bag or your toy. Okay? Treat a woman with care, and I promise you that the scriptures promise you that she's going to be there to have your back always. So, with that being said, I hope this was a edifying lesson to the body, to the few sincere believers and listeners. And with closing, I'd like to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of the Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning. And unto the Bayath of Dabadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere citations. See you in the next lesson, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharallah, Wa Abababal, Shalom, Barakatam.
To matter are the things that were built with honesty. I want to hear from the men watching this. How many times have you tried to raise something important and watched it become an argument about your tone or your timing or the way you said it rather than the thing you were trying to say? Tell me in the comments, because the men reading this right now who have stopped trying to have honest conversations with their wives need to know that what they have been experiencing has a name. And that naming it is the beginning of understanding whether the marriage they are in is capable of the honesty it requires to actually work. And to the wives watching this, if this was uncomfortable to hear, it is because something in it was accurate. Sit with that accuracy before you reach for the argument that ends the conversation. Because the conversation I am asking you to have with yourself is the most important one available to you right now. Share this if it said something true. This is Miss Alice, and I will be back with more of what nobody else will say. Subscribe if you're ready to keep hearing it.